What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Corner to Corner Wrestling Radio right here on Spreaker.com. We are live from Casa de Hefner.
Yes.
Myself, Stan Grove, my tag partner, Rob Hefner, live through Spreaker. Brian is recovering, as of course he should, from a very, very busy night of Ultimate Championship Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Man, we had so much going on. Rob, where does one start? We crown a new ladies champion. The belt collector continues as Casey Carlisle defeated Avery Rose. Hell of a matchup.
In a very strong style match.
Yes.
Very hard-hitting, very fast-paced. Casey Carlisle came to fight, and Avery Rose came to fight. And that's what they did.
Yeah, I mean, the conversations I had with both ladies after the night was through was basically that of respect for one another, but just how sore they were. The fans that were commenting in attendance very much were pointing out that that may have been match of the night for us. Again, the ladies steal the show at Defiance. Kudos to Casey Carlisle. Really, as she continues to gather more gold, I think she gets better and better. Here's an example of somebody getting better with age. I had a conversation with her about her thoughts on her opponent. Nothing bad, of course. I mean, she was nothing but complimentary. But at the same time, you know, she really does take pride in her role as a veteran of the industry. And you could see what it meant to her to be recognized as a champion for UCW, and the amount of effort and time she puts into making sure that everything gets done. I mean, here she is, she gets there, and as soon as she gets there, we approach her, tell her we need to try to get her in her gear as soon as possible so we can get some pictures done for her. We had a slew of photos for her to sign, a poster to sign, and she's all throughout the entire event. Absolutely, I'll do whatever you need me to do. Very agreeable, just a complete pro, and honestly blew me away. And she even remembered meeting you in the very brief interaction that we had. I mean, that takes takes a lot of skill to be able to recall that sort of stuff. So that's pretty neat. I was
definitely a professional.
Yeah.
I mean, and I will say, you know, when you have stars coming in and talent coming in, and there's a difference between, and we've all seen them, if you've ever been to an indie show or helped with an indie a local show or whatever, you know, you got your guys that come in, that get right to work, your guys and ladies that come in and get right to work, and the ones who come in, they may even come in late, but they come in like they're 5 hours early, right, hobnobbing and talking to everybody, wanting to see everybody, making sure everybody knows they're there. But I will say she came in, and every talent did that.
Yes.
Yesterday. From the early call to the, hey, we need to do some photos with you. We want to do some, we want to work some promos, some video promos with a couple of you. Can we get you in ring gear? And every one of the talents that was there was like, yeah, I'd love to. And they were very accommodating. And it was all, like some people may not know, but like one of our jobs with UCW is to do that kind of stuff, and we take our knowledge of what we've learned over the years, and what we're trying to do is help these guys, you know, better their product.
Right.
And if we can do that in a set of promo shots, if we can give them some pointers at how to talk to the camera, you know, those kind of things, and we had a good time. And I will say that a good amount of the talent was very... the show was just by far the best I'd been to in a while. From, you know, a lot of stuff. You know, with... the crowd was really into it. The crowd was lively and into it from the get-go. The talent was ready to go. We had some unfortunate things with some people that were supposed to be there, and we hope that they are doing okay. But you know what? The show went on, and the show went on awesome.
Yeah, I mean, with anytime you have an event, especially in independent professional wrestling right now, There's always the possibility that, for one reason or another, someone may not be able to be there. We're glad to hear that that Juggernaut, who was supposed to be making his return, but we're glad to hear that he's okay. We understood that he was in an auto accident. That, judging from the photos, he's just blessed that he's able to walk away from that without any injury. But I'm glad to hear that he's okay, and of course, I'm confident we'll see him in a UCW ring back home in UCW very soon. When you look at the event that we went through, just all of the things that were happening, of course, Geneva was with me. She helped us out as far as maybe putting a hand out there for shirts and everything, as far as protecting the merchandise and helping.
Yes, and I will go on record for all of our listeners.
All of them. All 50.
All 2 of you.
All right, fine, 4. Can we meet in the middle, say 25?
We have corner-to-corner t-shirts.
We do.
We have certain sizes available in a gray shirt with the corner-to-corner logo in black.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some sizes of a gray shirt with the corner-to-corner logo in black and blue.
Right.
And I will say that they are very reasonably priced. And if you would like one, message us.
Correct.
You can either message myself or Stan or the show,
or Brian.
Or Brian. You can message.
Words are hard.
And free shipping. I'll say that.
Yeah. We'll cover shipping.
We do this for fun. We do this show for fun.
Right.
We print it up. We had the shirts printed up as just a fun thing to see if we could do it. And you know what? If we sell one shirt, we sell one shirt. It'd be
right.
Awesome.
Exactly.
And
by the way, shirts are $50.
Well, wow. They went up a little bit, but
they're not $50?
No.
Oh. 400?
No.
All right. Remind me, how much are the shirts? I believe it was, no, it wasn't 20.
No.
It was 10.
10.
Yeah, 10.
I'll do 10.
It's the Ty Dillinger price.
And honestly, it wouldn't be to make money. It wouldn't be to line our pockets, because obviously we only have a limited number of t-shirts. And once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
Once they're gone, they're gone. I don't know if we'll do a t-shirts again, but, they were fun.
Hey, how many times can you look around in your...
And Stan happens to be wearing one right now.
And might I add, took the kids out today for lunch, and while we're sitting in McDonald's, a couple sitting behind us, or in front of us, complimented my shirt and said, "Wow, you must really be a devout wrestling fan to wear that in public." And now, any other fan may have taken offense to this, but I said, "Oh, no, sir. You're absolutely correct. I am a huge fan, and might I add, I did a show last night." So yeah, I had a brief moment.
And not only am I a fan, but I happen to be in the business.
So my one moment of yay, I can celebrate, and this guy's like, yeah, no, I don't care. I was just talking to you because your kids are making noise and they're staring at me and making me nervous for my food and my wallet. But that's all right. But I thought that was pretty cool. Getting noticed for our shirt. I gotta rep the brand.
Yeah, sorry, Stan called me mid-yawn.
Well, apparently I bore up.
No. It's the fact that this weekend has just dragged on.
Oh my gosh.
Yesterday was the longest day ever. But it was a fun day.
It was.
I want to thank UCW.
Yes.
I want to thank Everett DeVore. I want to thank Diego.
Yeah.
I want to thank Diego De La Rosa. I think that's his Twitter handle.
The Heartbreaker.
I want to thank those guys for bringing us in and letting us partake in this and have fun with them. Because that's what it's fun. Like, hey, you grow up a wrestling fan. That's why I do the show, is for fun.
Yeah.
You grow up a wrestling fan. You grow up in the business. How cool was it to actually be able to be like, last night to sit at ringside and call the action?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't do it. Somebody else was there, but Well,
wait a minute.
My alter ego.
The dastardly Doug Roberts.
Ooh, I'm dastardly. I was dangerous.
Well, now you're just dastardly. Or dangerous. Either way, you were there. and you had a role to play. Coolest part of what we do with UCW, honestly, is, in my opinion, seeing the whole puzzle come together from a 1,000-piece jigsaw where it's all in pieces to boom, it's this beautiful picture, and it tells the story all around from hero versus bad guy to dramatic moments to emotional times to comedy to that is truly the best. But being able to sit at ringside to do commentary, which has always been a dream of ours, it was tremendous.
All right, enough with the marking out.
Yeah, we could do that all day.
Yeah, let's get back to. All right, so the night started with a 3-way dance. Well, no, it started with the rendition of the national anthem by a local cancer survivor, who I will say brought the house down.
Oh yeah, she very talented.
It was amazing rendition, and I didn't realize what kind of voice and powerhouse it was. Like, she's just sitting over there in the corner, and I'm just like, so I hear you're the one singing the national anthem. She's like, oh yeah, I'll be right over here. I'm like, cool. And then she sang, it's like, wow. And then they gave away some T-shirts.
Yeah, well, they started to. And then we saw Humphrey J. DuPont and Ethan Cross. Mm-hmm. They come to the ring essentially demanding justice for what they have stated was a huge, huge crime in Red Scorpion becoming television champion. What we witnessed there was a strong statement from Humphrey J. And following that, we had the boss himself coming to the ring, Mr. DeVore, laying down the law and really, really setting things into motion for what we would see later on in the evening. KR Superstar comes to the ring, being trailed by Mr. Big Stuff. This was a moment that was tense because you really didn't know what was going to happen next. But it was an exciting moment there because we got to find out that we would see Humphrey J and KR get it on in an arm wrestling contest, which we did see later in the evening. But we did start, our first match of the evening was a triple threat to become the number 1 contender for the television title. 2 debuting superstars, Diamond Victor Griff and the ruthless one himself, Jason Raditz. I was very, very impressed with both guys. But I tell you who really shocked and surprised me was Joe King. Joe King was the standout in this matchup. Jason Raditz and Victor Griff, don't get me wrong, they both did well.
Newcomers to UCW.
Yes, but...
And I have a feeling they will be back.
Yes, I get the feeling we're going to see a lot more of those two gentlemen very soon.
But I agree, Joe King, I will have to admit, bud, you surprised me last night. You brought your A game.
Yes.
You said, you know what? Plans change. Our days take different courses and things happen, but you know what? You're going to make the best of an opportunity, and you did. And in a match, hard-fought match, it's always hard when you have more than one person in the ring.
Right.
And you're not Vince ruling it. But, when you don't have Vince rules going on. But...
the Hefner rule was not in place.
The Hefner rule was not in place, and see, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to change it from the Hefner rule to the Vince rule. I like namesakes because it's cool to have a thing that's named after me.
You don't want something bad named after you.
Who doesn't want a library or a building? But it's like I always feel sorry for the guy who they're like, "Hey, welcome to the so and so Memorial Dump." There's nothing else in the city you can name after me. You don't
want the Hefner landfill to happen.
You couldn't name a park, a bench. No, you got the dump. Wow. No. But Joe King took it home.
Yeah. Great matchup with Joe King, Jason Raditz, and Diamond Victor Griff. All three guys had standout moments. Realistically speaking, we could see any of those three competing for the television or the heavyweight title at any point. You never really know. But Joe King came out on top. I'm glad to see him on the right track victory-wise. We will, of course, we will be having UCW radio as we get further along, talking about each individual contest with the combatants themselves. Hey, you talk about events that took place. How about the presence of Facebook Live? All throughout the evening, of course, we saw, well, Rob, I mean, how does one describe this? Jimmy Flame, you had an opportunity to talk with him?
Those dastardly noise pollutions, like, a journalistic professional was trying to, interview Jimmy Flame over the great thing they were doing there at Hoops Academy.
Right.
Trying to get the word out, trying to get people in the door, and then for him to be attacked.
Assaulted, really.
Live on Facebook.
Yep.
Thank goodness I had the wherewithal and the situational awareness. That's a big word. Situational awareness to get out of the way before anybody touched me or got near me. So,
I was really shocked at how Noise Pollution stepped in and asserted themselves in a way that really wasn't necessary. Jimmy Flame out there to help promote the Donate the Shoes, get a free hot dog. I mean, we're helping out the less fortunate that need shoes. That's a great cause. Helping out the Hoops Academy, another great cause. But as he's doing so, of course, they accost him, they jump, they attack him, they throw him through chairs, they dumped a box of shoes on the guy. I mean, I wasn't really expecting Cheap Thrills to be prepared for what we would see later in the evening. But, hey, UCW's got new tag team champs, Rob.
And that's what happens, I think that Noise Pollution took it personally when they came out at Hoops the last time, and they were always the fan favorite. Sterling and Winchester, and Orange and Sterling and in Winchester, they were always the fan favorites. Right. Everybody cheered them. They just could walk in the room and everybody was cheering them. But for some reason, when they showed up to Hoops Academy in Ashland last time, those Hoops fans were like, nope, we don't like you.
Yeah, it was, I mean, of course, last time around, it was Bacon and Eggs and Noise Pollution, where the charisma of both Ace Montana and Pork Chop Johnson really stood out and really seemed to turn the fans a certain direction, which really caught us off guard. I mean, Noise Pollution has been the most popular tag team in UCW for quite some time. We get of course to the part of the show where Noise Pollution is going to explain themselves, their assault on Jimmy Flame, and the next thing we know, they're basically telling the fans, to stick it, which was, I guess you could see it coming. We did have a conversation with them on UCW Radio not too long ago discussing the actions that they felt the fans took against them. And so when it came down to time for Cheap Thrills, Jimmy Flame and Matt Sexcells to finally get their tag opportunity for the titles, they took full advantage, and they did come out on top. They even rubbed it in the faces of Noise Pollution by ending the matchup with Noise Pollution's finisher, hitting them with their own version of the Hangover. Double chokeslam that ends the matchup. I'm happy to say that we have new tag team champions. I know Noise Pollution, though, and they'll be looking for their rematch very, very soon. Tons of other action that we had, of course. We talked about it. Facebook Live, our recrowning of the women's champion, ladies champion, that is.
Ladies champion. Obviously, Noise Pollution was caught off guard, like you said. But then, the other matches we had, the rematch for the television title. Because remember, Humphrey J came out and Ethan Cross came out. Weren't very happy. And they got the rematch. The Red Scorpion. Red Scorpion came to UCW in Winchester, put the roster on its ear, and then came down to Hoops Academy and took the TV title away from Ethan Cross and Humphrey J. And so they wanted it back. Humphrey J wanted it back in his hometown.
And there we had it. I mean, we had Ethan Cross, who was ready to take back the crown. But, the Red Scorpion really has been one of those guys that has stood out for UCW in a very short amount of time. Doing his homework, very well prepared, ready for any and all comers, apparently, because what we saw was a Red Scorpion who took on Ethan Cross and fended off a very, very powerful challenge. And ended the matchup with... I had to ask the Red Scorpion what he called this maneuver. The Scorp... Jeez. You know what? I joked earlier that I was going to have trouble saying this. It was the Scorpion Spike Driver. There we go. The Scorpion Spike Driver. A version of a pile driver from a hangman's position on the rope. Similar to how Randy Orton does the DDT. But in this instance, instead of a DDT, it was, you guessed it, a pile driver that, myself, Rob, and Brian, all three of us just watching in awe. Just unbelievable. And the next thing we know, we see basically Ethan's head bounce off the canvas from a pile driver that was just, you had to see it to believe it.
Oh, it looked... when you're sitting there and you're watching wrestling and you've watched wrestling for years.
Right.
And you've seen it, you've gone to live events, and like I said when we went to that one show, and I'd never seen a ladder match that close.
Yeah.
It puts it in a different perspective. When you
you're talking about that time that Logan tried to throw me out of a chair. I remember that. Yeah.
Well, let's not talk about it. But
my lawyers are still looking after you, Mr.
Yes,
Liberty.
because somebody won't let it drop and get over it. We still can't talk about it.
I was assaulted.
The litigation. But anyway.
True.
Like, when you're sitting that close, because we had the luxury of being ringside. Like, you couldn't get a closer seat unless you were Ethan Cross.
Very true. And can I just say, I'm very glad that we were not Ethan Cross, because that pile driver looked like it could kill.
But then we were like, when he hit that move, all three of us were like, what?
Yeah. You'll hear it. Once of course, all the editing is completed and it's back up on Twitch, which... will be only a matter of time. It'll get done fairly quickly once we get everything prepared. But once the latest episode is available on Twitch, you can certainly catch that on Twitch TV/UCW Forever. And of course, updates for the show as episodes become available at UCW Forever on Twitter and Ultimate Championship Wrestling LLC on Facebook. But Rob, with what we saw, we can't leave out what, in my mind, still stands out as a dastardly act by KR Superstar, throwing baby powder into the eyes of Humphrey J. DuPont in an attempt to sneak his way to victory in a 2 out of 3 falls. By the way, never heard of this before, probably never see it again. 2 out of 3 falls arm wrestling match.
Well, Brian's not available right now, but I know he would say, how do you know for sure it was baby powder?
Well,
how do you know that he wasn't trying to help him in some way? But I will say this.
You know what? Brian would say that.
I will say that.
But that's only because his pockets are heavier by each man.
I will say that. I will say. Sorry. My mind's going 5 different places. I will say, and yes, I'm sitting in a rocking chair that you're probably hearing rock back and forth. So I apologize. I'm old.
Hey,
the only thing missing is my sweet tea.
You can't say you're old, because then that means I'm old.
Nah, but you're not as old as me yet.
True. Yep, I'm not going there.
But anyway, it was bound to happen. You were bound. It's only a matter of time until KR Superstar and Humphrey J are going to be in the ring 1-on-1, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 5-on-5, whatever. Because those two guys are determined to be, they're each determined to be the most hated man in UCW.
Right.
But the problem is you can't have a co-hated man in UCW. You can only have one hated man in UCW. So, with that being said, eventually they're going to come, and it's going to be who's the most hated person. But I will have to give it to the boss.
Uh-oh. Go ahead.
Lord Everett DeVore. I have to give him huge credit for thinking on his feet.
Yep.
And to be able to say, you know what? If you all want to come out to this ring and run your mouths and cause all this problem, guess what? Boom. I'm going to make you put up. Let's do it. You know? So, it quashed it for now. Well, no, it didn't even quash it for now. Because then they both still pestered each other throughout the evening.
And here's the thing. Even coming out of the arm wrestling match, which, honestly, I was not that I was expecting any kind of a result that would have differed from what we've already witnessed, but KR Superstar clearly felt, you could say it, he was afraid of losing. But, you know what, at least what we didn't see was either guy getting assaulted by Ethan Cross or the champ, UCW champ, Mr. Big Stuff, because those guys already had their dance cards full for the night, so I think they were trying to focus on their upcoming matches. But KR, I mean, I'm going to tell you, sooner or later, it's going to be time to pay the piper. And if it's not Humphrey J, hey, so be it. But it's going to be a time where he's going to have to answer for his crimes and for what he does. And maybe, just maybe, that comes in the form of the Atomic Dog, Pork Chop Johnson, who got his first attempt, first of what I assume will be first of many, to become the guy in UCW.
I will also say that it was also, last night was the first night of the BSI Open Challenge.
Correct.
Big Stuff Industries, KR Superstar, Big Stuff, Mr. Big Stuff, Billy Woody Jr. came down and said, you know what? There's no one here in UCW that I want to face.
Right.
There's no one here that can beat me. So you know what? As a champion, as a fighting champion, there's no one slated to fight me tonight. So I am allowing anyone to fight me. I will take on anyone in the locker room, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I saw you itching at your feet because you're like, I'm this close to the ring, I might as well get in. I know, I saw you itching.
You know, I was, and then, you know, this the trick me, it just, I couldn't. Thankfully, you and Brian both talked me out of it. Said, hey, relax, sit down. I said, okay, no problem.
But
I'd probably get
we had a person that took on. We had a person that accepted. Hey, that person that accepted it almost did it.
Hey, he, so far, with what we've seen of the champ, not a whole lot of chinks in the armor. Very strong, very methodical, and very intelligent. Knows exactly what he has to do, and does only that to make sure that he's not wasting energy, wasting time, or really wasting an opportunity. We saw this with Jeffrey Bravo, and we haven't seen Bravo since. Hopefully, Mr. Bravo is able to come back at some point, and we can see maybe some justice served there. But until that moment, until that time, the Atomic Dog answers the call, comes to the ring, and you knew as soon as you saw the look on KR Superstar's face that he just didn't realize the possibility of going one-on-one with the Atomic Dog. And I will say this for Mr. Big Stuff. Even though when he attacked Pork Chop before the bell, even though he did that, he sure did not show any fear whatsoever of the fight, and took the fight right to his challenger. But it was Pork Chop Johnson who really shined. And Rob, I mean, it could have very easily been the crowning of a new champion. Because had KR Superstar not distracted the referee, we saw it. It was, you could have counted to 100.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also think we saw one of, like you said, like the chink in the armor is KR Superstar. Because if you saw correctly, Humphrey J. DuPont came out, hit KR Superstar with that briefcase, and what happened?
Yeah.
Big Stuff didn't like it. He didn't take account to it because, you know, he talked about it earlier. He said, you know what? There's been friendships in the past and stuff like that. But business is business.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went after Humphrey. Well, then that left KR in the ring. So he, Big Stuff got counted out, which, that we'll talk about that forever. We'll talk about that for years to come.
I think that what we've seen is that while Big Stuff Industries remains at the top of the food chain, there are people right now that are there that, realistically speaking, are in control and not afraid of Big Stuff Industries any longer. So now we have this moment where even though Mr. Big Stuff is still UCW champion, now fans can also ask the question of, would it have been this way had KR Superstar not gotten involved? And it's only a matter of time before either Humphrey J gets his hands on KR and stops him from what he's doing, or someone else answers the call and gets rid of KR, thus causing a new champion.
Yeah, and so, but see, folks, that's just part of the action that we were talking about.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It was action-packed from start to finish last night.
Yes.
None of the matches left you thinking, okay, what are we even doing here? Like, the diabolical, terrifying Trimmer.
That was a creepy moment unto itself.
See, I didn't know Trimmer was there. I was like, okay, at least for once, we don't have to worry about it. And then the light, and then they turn the lights out. And you turn the lights out when you know Trimmer's coming.
Right.
I mean, it's different to turn the lights out knowing a wrestler's coming down the thing. But to know that wrestler is Trimmer just scared me a little bit.
It does become a question or a concern as to how anyone can be ready for a guy like Trimmer. MC123, UCW is one of their most popular superstars.
Most improved wrestler last year.
Correct. And following his matchup with Tremor, we would later find out during intermission that, as of right now, MC123 is hanging it up due to some injuries, some issues he's had with his back. And an emotional speech that he provided, and one that, honestly, I was touched just to hear the gratitude that he showed to the fans, to UCW, to all of the guys and the gals in the back that he's worked with, everyone from Mr. DeVore on down. And it was very cool to see the locker room really show their appreciation. And one of those moments where, regardless of what side of the fence you may be on, regardless of who your enemies are, you still have this mutual respect for a fellow competitor, a fellow combatant.
And I will echo what you said, Stan, and I will say this, from the Corner to Corner family, from UCW Radio family, MC123, if you ever listen to this, I don't know if you will, but we want to thank you for achieving what many people want to achieve but never can. Those that want to but never will.
Right.
You have wrestled in a professional wrestling ring for a while. You have achieved that. And we stand with you for whatever reason. And we stand with you for, and let you know that we're here.
Yeah.
If you ever want to come on and talk, that you're a welcome guest. We want to have you. Brian loves to do the hey-ho.
Yeah. It's his favorite part.
It's his favorite dance.
So, the ring, we can't hold him still. I mean, we try to, but, sometimes he's just too strong.
But we want to thank you for the laughs,
yes,
the smiles that you have put on children's faces in cities all over Virginia and wherever else you've wrestled.
And, hey, how about the rap lesson that he gave new tag team champions Chief Thrills?
Oh, that was hilarious. And the armband. So, from us to you, thank you for what you've done.
Yes.
And we'll miss you.
Absolutely. You were not voted most improved for no reason. You definitely have come a long, long way. Of course, you've been in this industry much longer than we have. But everything we've seen in the short time that we got to know you showed tremendous we'll just say guts is the best way to put it. So, yeah, we wish you the best. And, again, we would love to have you on anytime you feel the need to talk about the excitement that was Defiance, but also maybe your future plans. Maybe we can get, rap lessons with MC123 to be a repetitive thing. I mean, God, maybe we could see Mr. Big Stuff drop some bars. How about that?
Yep. But, the action just continued.
Yes, definitely.
Then you had, as we said, you had the Facebook Live match where you had the Facebook Live interview where Jimmy Flame was attacked by Noise Pollution. Well, guess what? Their attack apparently didn't hold him down long because here came Noise Pollution to defend their tag titles against Cheap
Cheap Thrills. And that was what I was mentioning just a little bit earlier. Cheap Thrills, they were ready. They had a plan, and they executed it flawlessly. So much, in fact, that when they ended this matchup, when they became tag champs, they won the matchup with Noise Pollution's own finishing move.
Wow.
So,
and it was great to see Matt Sex Sales from Matlanta, GA.
It's never sunny in Matlanta,
but it was just a great match. That was another match, months in the works, months of jawing back and forth between Matt and Jimmy and Rock and Max.
Yeah.
They all took their turns saying what they wanted to say, shooting their little videos and talking their things. So for them to have the match, for them to finally get in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was one of those moments where, Noise Pollution had enough. They were finally sick and tired of being sick and tired with UCW fans. And honestly, they were taking no prisoners. They sure didn't come out there looking past Cheap Thrills, but just happened to be Cheap Thrills night, and that's all that Cheap Thrills needed. So hopefully we see a rematch with that. I'm certain we're going to have a conversation with both sets of tag teams there with former champs Noise Pollution and now new tag champs Cheap Thrills on UCW Radio. Got lots of interesting information to cover. Rob, while UCW Defiance from Ashland, Virginia was a tremendous night of action.
And it's the freshest enter, and that's why we talk about it.
Right. You can't really go too far without recognizing an event that took place on a Friday afternoon.
While everybody was at work.
From the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, to be specific. The greatest Royal Rumble. Which I think I speak for everyone when I say that Titus O'Neil is officially the VIP for the greatest Royal Rumble.
I will say that Titus O'Neil won the award for something happening at work that you hope no one ever saw, but everybody did.
Whoops.
And before you could even play it off, it's one thing for it to happen, and it's like, oh wow, okay. But then for it to happen, and the announcers immediately,
oh my gosh,
are like, oh my god, look at this! Like, let's rewind the videotape.
Yeah, that was they first off, Corey Graves, Michael Cole, Byron Saxton, all of them busted up with laughter the moment it happened, and for a good majority of the match after it happened. Titus O'Neil comes sprinting to the ring, excited, ready to compete in the greatest Royal Rumble, and as he gets to the ring, the poor guy, I thought maybe he did it on purpose at first, because as he's falling, you see he's at eye level, he knows where he's headed, but that's not the case. So then you look again and you're like, maybe his leg gave out. Well, thankfully, I mean, he doesn't appear to be injured by any reports that I've read so far. But the guy just trips and does a header under the ring. I mean, have we ever seen anything like that ever before?
I mean, it was embarrassing. But then it's like, if you've ever seen a wrestling show, an event, you know that under the ring is not clear.
No.
Like, there is stuff under the ring. Like, last night when they were putting the ring together, I was looking at it as they were putting it together, and I didn't realize those cables that ran from corner to corner
and pillar to post
across. I'm like, man, he could have
yeah,
but again, Titus, we've all been there, and all I can say is you're there until somebody else does something dumb.
The latest edition of the Shockmaster is now Titus O'Neil. You'll never live it down, but at the same time, you'll never have to worry about being forgotten because it'll never happen.
Well, and think about it this way: what differs you from him is the fact that at least you established your character before you fell on your face.
Right. I mean, he has a following, so that's
you weren't
that.
At your debut.
So how about the matchups that we knew that were taking place as far as title defenses and everything? Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns in the case. What do you think?
Well, here's what I will say. I will say the greatest Royal Rumble idea, philosophy, match card, awesome.
Yeah.
Like, as a wrestling fan today, like, that is probably one of the dream cards you could have. I mean, it's a WrestleMania caliber card, and it's on a Friday afternoon.
Right.
But the greatest Royal Rumble, some of it, I will say the lineup was like, I was looking forward to it. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Yeah. I didn't expect this. I thought we were going to have Fastlane, but now it's like an unexpected pay-per-view, and it's a Royal Rumble. Who doesn't like the Royal Rumble?
I mean, I love the Royal Rumble.
And
it
50 people. Events. I mean,
50 was a lot.
Like, I mean, as a fan, I'm like, oh, when they did the 30, and then the year they went to 20, or was it they did 40 and then they went to 30? But like,
well, the very first one was 20,
right?
And then they went to 30, and then they did the 40 man, and then they went back to 30, and then I guess because Jeddah demanded it, 50.
And I was like, wow, 50, that'd probably be cool. 50 a little too much.
It was
They're 10 people too much, I think.
Yeah, I was
with a stacked card as it was. Like, if you're going to do a 50-man battle royal, like a Royal Rumble, then you needed to get rid of 2 cards. 2 matches.
Yeah, like, what was the purpose of seeing Cena and Triple H? Like, why? Why would... I mean, there's 2 top draws of the industry, but other than that, no reason.
That is one of those matches that you see. It kind of reminds me of the match of... This is going to sound really bad.
Uh-oh.
And I don't mean it to sound really bad.
Oh, no.
But when the boss is still wrestling and he wants to put the belt on himself, you know? So he goes out and has a match that makes really, with the top face of the company, that makes kind of no sense, sort of. And then it's like, but there was no belt, there was no payoff. It was just like all of a sudden Triple H versus
John Cena.
So it's like...
Well, I mean, he had already done that to Roman Reigns. He's like, I'll be champion now. All right.
Well, and I mean, unfortunately...
Now you have to defend it. Now you got to defend Roman Reigns. See how it's stuck?
I'm not defending Roman Reigns at all. I'm saying the problem is right now the company is looking in creative-wise. You've got to figure out what to do with John Cena. And there's another explanation of John Cena versus Triple H. That's called... We have now lost that amazing WrestleMania moment.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to get married. You proposed to a woman.
Wow, you took it there.
On our pay-per-view. And now you broke up with her. And now every time we show this, WrestleMania 24, that they go, this awesome, look at this. No.
Yeah, this time a year ago, we're coming out of the afterglow of WrestleMania, where John Cena had proposed to Nikki Bella. And everybody was so like, oh, it was so cute and all that. And yeah, it was kind of nice, kind of cute. But at the same time, it was also, It was also kind of, how do you say, robotic. You know, I think Miz kind of saw it coming. And you knew that things were a little weird when it came to the whole Cena situation because of the whole, you know, sign this 75-page contract before you move into my home. And I don't know John Cena personally. I certainly can't speak for his issues in the past. All I can tell you is that I thought that was odd. I'm like, who does this to another person? You know, for moving in together, not for like getting married.
If you move into a house and you've got to sign a non-disclosure agreement,
something's wrong.
And the fact that as soon as I want you to move out, you have to move out.
Yep.
You know? But anyway, moving on.
Well, here's the thing. It's not like Nikki Bella's going to be like just devastatingly lonely. It's not like she won't be able to find someone. You know, she's not, you know, all due respect, but she's not an ugly woman. She's not a unknown woman. She's gonna basically be able to go outside. I mean, who's to say she doesn't get back together with Dolph Ziggler? I mean, I don't know.
But what I'll say is, to me, that is what I was thinking. But it may have nothing to do with it. It may just been, you know what? When they went to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the guy was like, "This is the show I want, and I want John Cena on it, and I want Triple H on it, and I want The Undertaker on it, and I want, you know." I want Barry Von Rauschke, and I want, you know, you know.
I mean, I wonder if perhaps that's what it was. They just had a list. Okay, we want this one, we want this one, we want this.
You know how you go to the deli and you get like, all right, you want this kind of bread, you want this cheese, you want all these toppings.
Half a pound salami, half a pound corned beef.
You know, like, it's like, here, you're gonna have a WWE show in your territory. You're paying the bills.
Yep.
Who do you want? Well,
I'll take this one and this one and this one.
You know, like, for this much, you get this. For this much money, you get these people. You know, and then...
Let me ask you something. So this event, except for one matchup, which really, truly surprised me, nothing happened during this event that couldn't have been done on a Raw or SmackDown. Nothing. The Battle Royal itself, of course, that's the pay-per-view Battle Royal. I separate that. The only thing that surprised me, truly, was the Raw Tag Team titles. Mm-hmm. And it shouldn't have, because the bar is now on SmackDown, but Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt become the Raw Tag Champions.
But if you looked at it, every match that had a belt, like...
It was intermingled, except for Roman and... Roman and Brock and AJ and Shinsuke. They were on the
That was the only ones that were like, all right, whatever happens, happens.
Right.
I was very surprised that we didn't see the belts drop. I thought that the way the Brock and Roman match, and I know we're jumping around, but like...
Right.
The Brock and Roman match, I thought the way Brock and I thought the way Roman had his offense and the way it was in a cage, it was after WrestleMania. They still had the payoff. They could still, the story was still going.
They could still salvage it.
Right. They had Samoa Joe waiting in the wings as we gave Roman the belt. It failed. In a month at Backlash, you know, in a few weeks at Backlash, Joe will take it from him. You know,
which would have made sense, honestly. It really would. But then again, Joe's on SmackDown. So again...
But then I would say you just put Joe back on Raw.
Okay.
But, yeah, again, you had them fight for what?
Well, and you got now, you've looked at this tag match, right? And you're watching, or not tag match, but the Universal title match, the cage match. You're watching these two guys go at it. You've got a decent opportunity to make Roman into a monster if you want, both good or bad, to have him just plow through Brock. I mean, because nobody would have been surprised. People may have been disappointed, but nobody would have been surprised if he had just beaten Brock, walked out with the belt. Probably would have been even more a sense of relief or happiness, because now we at least have a champion on every week.
And Brock could then move into the character that they want him to, you know, and the way and appearance schedule they want him to be.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and you could take the belt off of Roman.
Yep.
Easily.
And quickly, if you wanted. I mean, That's the thing. Like with the feud with Joe before they moved him to SmackDown, it truly made sense. You could just beat Brock, have Brock come back at SummerSlam, even win the belt back as he heads to Survivor Series. But you varied it. You've changed it up. In this situation, Brock winning because of, I guess this is called a dusty finish. The spear that goes through the cage, which, I mean, how many Superman punches do we have? Like 20? How many F5s? What is going on with the person that says, this is what we're going to do for this matchup? We can't do something different?
Brian and I were talking about this yesterday. What I cannot stand is the fact that we've gone to a new part of wrestling to where we've gone from a finisher is a finisher, and every once in a while, the person kicks out of the finisher.
Right.
I mean, every once in a while, somebody would kick out of the Undertaker's tombstone.
Right. Or the leg drop for Hogan. Well,
right.
Towards the end of his career.
But
yeah. Got it. Now
we've gotten into the point where Shinsuke hits his move 4 times. Brock, it's now a numbers match with how many F5s and suplexes he can go to. They've turned it into a whole gimmick, Suplex City.
Yeah.
And then now you've got Roman Reigns with the Superman punch that's supposed to knock everyone out.
That now doesn't knock anyone out.
Only knocks you down.
Right.
And then his spear,
which doesn't even look that good anymore.
Who I felt sorry for coming out of that cage was Roman's neck.
Yeah, he did not land well.
How can you land on your head?
And he landed head first into the mat on the outside with the cage between it, and then slumps to the left where he's just, here we are diagramming like it's the JFK assassination, back and to the left. But I mean, he lands, he just kind of slumps to the left, and all I could think was, dude, he's going to need so much surgery one of these days because of these kinds of shots.
And to me, that is an issue that goes way beyond the greatest Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
It goes on way beyond Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. But if you look at it, as I said, on paper, this was on paper. It was an amazing event.
Yeah.
But your biggest matches, Roman, questionable finish, dusty finish, cage breaks, right? Shinsuke, Nakamura, and AJ Styles, count out. You
get the feeling they're building up for Shinsuke winning the title. I gotta say, at Mania, I wasn't really sure how I felt about the heel turn. But now, with the new music, which, by the way, Shinsuke Nakamura's new intro music is badass.
And I would put him with Aiden English. I would let Aiden English talk for him, too.
Him and Rusev,
in a faction.
That'd be cool.
I'm
into it. I'm excited about this plan.
Call them foreign imports. Or foreign fear factor or something. I don't know. I went stupid on that one. I'm sorry, but
I like foreign imports. I like that idea. Yeah. The battle royal itself.
Foreign threats.
International incident. Bam. Dollar bills, y'all. The Royal Rumble itself. 50 men, way too many. 45, 40, I think is probably the max that you can do. But let's talk about performance-wise. Daniel Bryan, over an hour 16 minutes. And I thought, honestly, while I did understand, and we were talking about this before we came on the air, I thought for sure that they were going to let Daniel Bryan win. But what a testament to the guy's ability. He's been gone for 3 years. And he runs and does an hour and 16 minutes against anybody that's in the ring. I was damned impressed. That was a hell of a performance.
He did it, and he looked good doing it.
Yes, very good and healthy.
And one thing it would have shown me if I'm on the creative side,
yeah,
is Daniel Bryan can go with anyone in your company.
Right. Big, small, brawler, wrestler, yeah.
You're going to put him... The only reason I believe that they're putting him with... There's two reasons, I will say now that I've corrected myself mid-sentence.
Yeah.
There's two reasons I think they're putting him with Big Cass in a series. One, it keeps him away from the world title until Shinsuke versus AJ's over.
And God, Shinsuke versus Daniel Bryan would be awesome.
Until that's over.
Yep.
Plus, it's elevating Big Cass because Big Cass has been gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to see if he has if he's relative now,
or relevant.
If he has relevant without Enzo.
Yeah, and you need someone that can put him on the map quick.
Because him coming out, it's kind of like the whole thing they say about prison.
Yeah,
like you go into prison, you punch the biggest man in the mouth.
Yep.
You go into WWE, you punch you pick the fight with the most popular babyface if you're a heel.
Yep.
You don't go in if you're Big Cass and you're looking for a fight, you're looking for a series. You don't go in and say it's never Rusev Day.
Yeah, right.
Or you know what, Ty Dillinger, you're not number 10, you're number 0.
Yeah.
Because yes, those guys are stars. Yes, those guys have things by power, and Rusev is over huge with Rusev Day, but it would do nothing for Big Cass.
Yeah, and I think that with Big Cass, we talked about it back when he and Enzo were at the height of their popularity when they first got to Raw. There's something special about Big Cass, and we can see it, that he could possibly be one of their big stars. So they've got to find out, what do they have? What money do they have truly with him? So that makes sense. And yeah, it annoyed me because of, the fan of me just wanted to see Daniel Bryan win. But at least it made sense. It was, this is a feud. It's continuing. This is why he threw him out. And then we saw...
And that's why I truly believe that Big Cass was so late.
Right, yeah. To play spoiler. Which, honestly, if it gets him over as a bad guy, makes perfect sense. And I'm okay with that. You don't have to be a great wrestler to be over as a bad guy or a good guy. You just have to have something that works.
Mm-hmm.
And he definitely did. He does now. I think with his feud with Enzo, people were more cheering for him beating up Enzo towards the end of it because Enzo was getting annoying.
Well, and that's the thing.
Plus, he did it every week.
Well, it's like, come on. When you turn on someone, it was kind of like you felt sorry when they kicked Marty Jannetty and threw him through the plate glass. It was like he couldn't recover from that. His character never recovered.
The Rockers being my favorite tag team, I will never forget how heartbroken I was to watch that happen. And I'm the biggest Shawn Michaels fan I can think of, but at that point, I was a Marty Jannetty fan because I was so disappointed that they broke up. And I really wanted to see, the Rockers get back together. So I remember being mad at Michaels for doing that because this is back when, you're a kid. You're like, I can't believe you would do that. You have the best tag team in wrestling and all that.
But it shows you.
Yeah, it really does.
Like, as a fan, today, and as a professional, that you are today, it puts in perspective of why they do what they do.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
There's a reason Big Cass turned on Enzo.
Mm-hmm.
It would not have worked if Enzo turned on Big Cass.
Yeah.
Because we'd all be sitting there going...
Yeah, there's no reason for it. Why would you do that?
Stupid.
Well, plus, for Enzo to have gotten the advantage in that would have been so unrealistic that fans would just not have bought it. Very similar to what's happened with Roman. People just didn't buy into it because it was no longer a question of, is Roman popular or does he draw fans? Of course he does, but why? You know what I mean? That's the craziest part of it. I think when we see wrestling today, and the Greatest Royal Rumble actually kind of indicated this to us, when we see wrestling today, we see what we missed back when we were kids. Like, we see why Cass came out when he did, and threw out Daniel Bryan. We see why the Bludgeon Brothers ran rampant over everyone, and now they've got the, I would say, good problem of, well, who do we find to beat these guys? So what happens? SmackDown's tag roster gets bolstered because now you need tag teams to challenge the big guys.
That's why you bring in the club.
Right.
Now you have the club. But it's like, I say, like, that's a good problem to have.
Right.
And we see it. And that's why people always, as a wrestling fan, it's kind of like a comic book fan.
Yeah.
For years, it was not cool to like comic books. It was
Right.
not cool to know who Batman was. Like, in society, in school, if you knew that Bruce Wayne was Batman, it was like, oh, what? No. But now it's like, oh, yeah, but what Batman do you like?
Right, yeah.
In wrestling, it's like, oh, that's wrestling. And the thing I love about wrestling is exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Like seeing how the product works.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about being involved in the projects we are with UCW and stuff. It's like seeing how it works.
Yeah.
Seeing the stories unfold, why they do what they do. That, hey, you know what? The event today, the payoff is down the road.
When we were, kind of getting back towards UCW for a moment. So we're getting ready. I'm changing from jeans and a t-shirt to our broadcast gear, which essentially is just a shirt and tie. When I'm getting dressed, and I just happen to be up there, and I look down, and there is Humphrey J. DuPont's briefcase and his leopard skin coat. And I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, imagining how much time and how much stuff he's done with both pieces of equipment. And, I got caught up in the moment for a second because I'm just thinking about how much history there is just in that briefcase, just in that coat. And to see that, I was like, man, and here I am getting ready to go down there and do play-by-play for an event that 2 years ago we would have never dreamed.
And I had that
cool.
Well, I had that same fanboy moment. We're sitting there at the ringside. Oh my god!
At the ringside.
What's happening to me?
He's at the ringside. Well, words are hard. We spent a lot of words.
Well,
yesterday.
what's funny was when we lived where we used to live. My son came up. He goes, "Daddy." I'm like, one, it's daddy. It's not daddy. He's like, when are we going to the Walmart? I was like, one, we don't go to the anything. Like we don't go to the library. You do go to the library, but like you don't go to the McDonald's. You don't go to the Walmart.
The Target.
Like we don't go up to town because we go downtown because that's the direction we go. Like we don't go up to visit our grandparents in West Virginia because it's down to West Virginia.
Or over.
Like my mom called. Why don't y'all come up see it? I'm not coming up to see you. But anyway, like sitting at ringside. Sorry, I didn't have my meds today.
You're on meds?
And Brian's not here to keep me on track.
You're right. Right about now, it'd be Brian going, all right, you two hooligans, stop the shenanigans.
I have bruises on my arm. No, when we were calling the matches, and they took the ref took the title and set it on the table in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, it like I looked at that belt and I go, you know what? That's just not a replica.
No.
That, one of us bought that's sitting in our house, like the U.S. title that's sitting in my basement. Right. And the titles you have, and my early version of the big gold that was brought out.
Right.
That is the title.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, that was cool.
It's hard not to get caught up in that.
Sorry, I marked out for a second, and then I'm like, But anyway, going back.
I think with what we've seen from the Greatest Royal Rumble, which, if you're going to keep doing these events from Jeddah, fine. There's a lot of people, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but there's a lot of people that, for more than one reason, are very upset with WWE for doing these events overseas, specifically in Saudi Arabia. Some people are very upset because Sami Zayn wasn't allowed to perform because of his ethnicity. if I read it correctly, and I don't know if it's just 100% true or not. I'll say it because I read it, and it seemed to be a popular conversation during the event. But apparently, Sami Zayn has Syrian ethnicity to him. I truly don't know this for certain. I don't know his background like that, but they being the Kingdom of Jeddah, the royal family, did not want him to perform on the event for that. Now, as you also know, if you look at any of Sami Zayn's social media, he does a lot of work for charities for raising money for really the less fortunate in Syria. So there may be, where there's smoke, there's fire in that situation. But that was super disappointing. I remember reading that and thinking to myself, man, I can't believe they do that. Other people are disappointed because of the female, for the women's division, that were not allowed to perform. Keep in mind, it wasn't very long ago that Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss had the first ever women's wrestling match in the Middle East. Of course, fully clothed appropriately for the culture. But in this situation, it was very different. And in Saudi Arabia, they basically said, no, we're not going to have that. Now, I understand. I mean, it is troubling to hear that we've seen so many progressive movements by WWE that it almost seems like a backstep to refuse to have certain types of matches there, or certain superstars on the card. But from a business perspective, the company gets $200 million to do this one event. Hey, listen, you can be the most morally centered promoter on the planet, and $200 million is going to be awfully difficult to say no to.
Right. And, I mean, you've got to understand, what people have got to realize is when a world company, when a company that operates around the world does business, when the WWE does business, when they go to their different their country tours, they have to change the product to fit the country they're in.
Yeah,
very true. Like, movies do it all the time. We just don't see it because we're not over there. They change how movies do things, and scenes in movies, and titles of movies, and things like that because of what it is. I mean, do I agree with it? I mean, I think everybody deserves to be where they deserve to be.
Sure.
I think Sami Zayn's performance and his performance and his charisma and his ability should have been what was judged.
Right. But in his actual wrestling persona, his character.
Right. But the WWE's hands were tied.
And I think that's the problem you run into when you have a paid-for event like that. And hey, there are times where companies out there, independent promotions, will have what they call a bought show, and they're going to do what they're paid to do because, one, they're not stupid. They're going to accept free money in that regard. And two, it's not like they're doing a public execution or anything. Let's not blow it up to be too much further than what it was. Sure, I mean, not having females on the show, that's a mistake. I completely agree. Especially for what we've witnessed from some of the groundbreaking moves they've had with the women's division. No, I don't agree with Sami Zayn being held off of the show either. But at the same time, it's not the Stan Grubb Wrestling Entertainment. It's Vince McMahon's World Wrestling Entertainment. And as long as my name's not on the marquee, I'm going to say that he can do whatever the heck he wants.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I will say,
so be it.
as a wrestling fan, the idea of a wrestling event like that was fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, look at the kids that were in attendance at this event.
Right.
They all were there to see what they never thought they'd ever see in their lifetime.
Well, it's like the joking thing I told Brian when we watched, because he and I watched the first part of it together.
Yeah.
Or at his house. I said the thing that I thought was fun, I asked him was, because if you've ever been to a WWE event, especially a television or one they're taping, there's people in the crowd WWE pays to monitor people's use of their phones.
Yeah.
Like video recording or whatever. And so I asked Brian, I said, since this was a bought show, is that person sitting there going, "Yeah, put the phone down, put the phone down"? Because
Right.
you saw a lot of people with their phones up and their cameras going and and the lights on. What I was going to say is, if they do it again, and you know they will, I would say don't broadcast it live.
Mm-hmm.
I would say don't broadcast it on your network at noon. Save it.
And then broadcast it that night, maybe.
Do it that night, prime time.
Yep.
Say, you know what? One night only from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
Bam.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to know it was tape delayed.
Right.
You know? But if your roster's over there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If all of your talent is over there, and you sign them to a non-disclosure,
right?
You know, like, hey, you all can't tweet about this until it's over. You know, the same way you can't, you know, when you find out that morning that you're taking the belt that night, you don't send your friend a text going, "I'm taking the belt tonight."
Right, right. I mean, it's one of those deals where the planning of it, I understand the time frame of what they wanted, and maybe part of the negotiation for them was, and you're going to air it live as it happens.
Well, I don't think it maybe
from Jeddah instead of from Montreal or Madison Square Garden. Maybe that's what the royal family wanted.
That could have been, but I would think in my mind it was Vince's way of saying, "I'm going to kill two birds with one stone."
Right, right.
You know, I'm going to be able to make money on the thing I'm already made money on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like the whole T-shirt thing. You know, years ago he said, "Why should I let my talent get T-shirts and then I don't make anything off of it?
Right.
How about I do T-shirts and I give the talent a cut?"
Yeah, give them a percentage.
You know,
and the thing that I notice about this is that, you know, the company I work for now, no, it's not the Lizard. The company I work for now was pushing hard for this event for pay-per-view. To make sure that we knew how to sell this event and promote this event from a cable perspective. And there was no inkling to me that there was really a sense of urgency about the time of day that the event was airing.
mm-hmm.
So that tells me that the marketing machine that is WWE just wanted it pushed. Just talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are going to buy it or people are not. But all they want is the event out there. So they did their basic marketing ploy just to make sure it's out there. But they weren't requiring anyone to do really anything as far as specific things. Like with WrestleMania, the push for WrestleMania from a sales standpoint is ridiculous. It's constant reminders. It's emails and phone calls. I can remember one year because I was on the WWE Network's list because my phone number was on my account, but also because my cable company knew my purchase history, that I got a call, and it was a recorded message from John Cena to remember to order pay-per-view for WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember getting an email where it's a video message from Daniel Bryan. And I'm thinking to myself, we live in an age now where if they really and truly wanted to make the Greatest Royal Rumble like a signature event, they could have did that and maybe improved their buy rate. But perhaps because of part of the negotiation tactic was, we'll pay you, you do whatever you want, but you have to air it live. So they did it.
Right. Or I'm hoping it was the latter of, you know what, we made a mistake. Next year we won't air it live.
Right, right.
You know, because I truly believe that was one of the issues I was having with it was, and I will say, for the first time in history,
yeah,
I was able to watch a WWE pay-per-view after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't had anything spoiled.
Yeah.
You know, like,
a big part of it.
Like, it was Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brian and I watched it Friday night. We started watching it late. We knew we had to get up for UCW the next night. So, like, we decided to finish it. and I was able to go through all day yesterday. Like, we stopped at the Shinsuke Nakamura match.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we went all day yesterday, and I commented it to him on the way home. I was like, now it's too late, and I'm tired, but it's like, man, nobody spoiled it.
You know, I remember the only well, nobody spoiled it for you except for me. So I'm headed to the event, and no, this was the day before. This was like that evening, Friday night, and so we're texting back and forth. Me, Rob, Brian, and some of the guys from UCW, and somebody brings up Bray Wyatt. So I mentioned the result of the tag match where Wyatt and Matt Hardy won the titles, and apparently I may have spoiled that for Rob. Sorry.
Oh, come on. We had, like, the match was on. Like, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt were wrestling it right in front of you, and then it's like, oh, by the way, it's so-and-so. It's like when you record, like, for me, you know, like, I'm a NASCAR fan.
Right.
And you record the NASCAR race, and you've gone all day, and no one's ever done anything. And then as you're watching it, you have that brain fart where you check Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, and there's Kyle Busch holding the trophy, and it's like, well, son of a...
Right. Or what if you know, and they don't have it, it doesn't happen as much because, like, the NFL, with ball games, scores are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it used to be back in the day, like, if you taped a game, you didn't have to worry about it. But they would just be that one time that you just happen to check, I can't believe the Redskins won, or I can't believe the Panthers won. It's like, wow.
Well, see, I had that at some point, like, it happened today. Like, I was watching a tape delayed of the Xfinity race from Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Well, apparently, for some reason, it was recorded from the live race. So then at the bottom of the screen scrolled the results of the race I'm watching.
Yeah.
Luckily, I didn't see who won. But I was like, that's mean. But anyway.
Hey, getting back to...
let's get to wrestling since we're talking. This is a wrestling show.
Getting back to Cena...
And God, this is my ADD kicked in today.
Getting back to...
And no, I'm not making fun of people, folks. I am diagnosed ADD, ADHD, so...
Squirrel!
I can say it.
So getting back to Cena and Nikki Bella for a moment,
Have they tweeted you?
No, not yet. Sadly,
I was gonna say.
So
going to kill you.
So the focus of
and
Total Bellas, right, and I'll pay for that someday. Right?
I was thinking the same thing, dude. Like, it's not only the relationship, but they got the show.
Well, Total Bellas, the focal point of this upcoming season was supposed to be the prep for the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you finally got what you wanted, Nikki. You finally got John Cena to propose.
And the show would have paid for it.
And they were going to do all of it. And now, its focus has changed, and it's now about the split. Which, you know, here's the thing. And we as fans of entertainment of any type, we all have our own opinions on how this stuff goes and all of that. Here's the thing. At what point do you draw the line and stop filming this stuff? Like, okay, I get it. You know, Total Bellas, Total Divas, all of that. A lot of people go, yeah, it's all the work.
Now,
sure, but you're talking about two real people.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, it can't be easy, and you've got.
Are they going to film both sides?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I assume. Because the news feed here says due to the real life breakup of John Cena and Nikki Bella, scenes from the upcoming season of Total Bellas reportedly had to be refilmed, which should be red flag number one. The season was originally scheduled to be focused on Cena and Nikki preparing for their wedding, but will now be focused on the split instead. In a recent interview with SportsIllustrated.com, Brie Bella commented on the new season. So many people have so many questions where John and Nicole are at, and why everything happened, and I think this season will answer a lot of those questions. I give them a lot of credit for opening up their lives. We all told ourselves we had to be an open book. If you're going to do reality, you need to do the good and the bad. And I think that's why so many people love Nicole and me. We're real and honest, and there are really some intimate conversations between Nicole and John, and I think my sister is just like other women go through this, and she wants them to feel like they're not alone. And while I respect and appreciate that, and I'm sure there's a ton of women that do, no. You know, I mean, enough's enough. One, I like John Cena, I like Nikki Bella both as people, and I respect both of them. I mean, I don't know them, but I don't need to know why they broke up. Mm-hmm. Like, now it's going to be, just like right now, it's a conversation topic. Now, once it finally breaks through, we might find out some crazy-ass detail, and we'll be like, can you believe that John Cena did this? Or can you... It's crazy. Mm-hmm. When do we, as a society, stop paying attention to the garbage that is reality TV?
Exactly. Now, I mean, but I think a lot of people have found that as an issue when they do reality TV shows. You know, you see it a lot of times when these people do these shows, and it's like, at a certain point, it just gets too real.
Yeah, I think people get uncomfortable with it. It just becomes a situation where it's like, man, I don't, just some stuff you just don't need to know. And I'm sure Nikki Bella, honestly, Nikki Bella has been through the ringer on this emotionally. I'm sure John Cena probably in his own way has dealt with it too. But if you remember, there was a time where John Cena felt like he was, the guy picking up women backstage. Mm-hmm. So you hate it, but at the same time, maybe this stops that from happening with Cena. Maybe he kind of wakes up and maybe someone, not necessarily Nikki Bella, but someone benefits from this moment where maybe Cena is able to find someone and Nikki Bella finds someone.
Well, I think
not that we need to know.
They're gonna find their loves. I mean, look at the other shows. I mean, you've had other reality shows out there where the stars have just then, oops, what do?
Right.
And you move on. But the episodes that I saw of Total Divas, I enjoyed them just because I thought they were neat, just because of the behind the scenes of the business.
Right.
Like the episode I saw sometime when, like, Naomi, and it was the whole thing with the belt, like that she, like,
where she
how much trouble she got into because she put the glow stuff on the belt and didn't tell them.
Right.
But as long as people tune into these reality shows, you're going to have these things. Mm-hmm. Like, I was on a trip for work, and I was at the hotel, and the hotel TV had one of those. It was Stars, or one of them, mm-hmm. and it was Big Brother After Dark.
Yeah,
and it was just all it was the camera feeds. The camera was live, mm-hmm. and so you're watching them sitting around. And it's kind of like the Truman Show. Like, I'm like, are we really getting to this point?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to watch them sit there.
It's an awkward thing to watch because you're like, man, this isn't just the show. This is like, it's not just the show. It's like, now it's an intrusion. Huh? Now it's like, this is the uncomfortable part of life that we don't necessarily need to see.
But
this is weird.
On the opposite side of it, you wanted the fame and fortune when everything was good.
Right, and now,
you wanted the fame and fortune, you want the cameras there when everything's good. Then there's people that believe you should have the cameras there when everything's not good. Show both mm-hmm. sides. But it's, both of them are going to be fine. I don't think you'll see John Cena on upcoming. I think the only reason he was on that show to begin with is because he was with her.
Yeah. It
was an added bonus of, hey, we've got Nikki and Brie. And a show with them, we also get Daniel and John.
What if we find out later that part of the reason they split up was because of this show? Because Cena was just like, nah, I'm done. But Cena's a private guy. I mean, every conversation he's ever had, interview-wise, whether it's WWE related or not, he talks about how much he values his privacy, how much he values, his time away so that he can recharge, which I fully understand and respect. But wanted the reason that he split from Nikki was because he was tired of being in a reality show, and he knew that marriage would almost guarantee that he was not getting out of that anytime soon.
That could be part of it, because the big talk is that he's trying to make that transition to Hollywood.
Yeah, and that's...
He wants to be the next Rock.
Yeah.
Because technically John Cena could do the same Rock. He could do all the movies The Rock did.
Yeah.
Like, if he started now making, like, The Scorpion King, by the time he's come around after, The Rock will be on to doing other movies, and John Cena can make the Tooth Fairy again.
A reboot of the Tooth Fairy. We've come a long way.
Non-Larry the Cable Guy Tooth Fairy.
Internet. At least Larry the Cable Guy's funny. I think with what we're seeing in wrestling today and the growth of the mainstream, it's why fans get disgusted with today's product. Like, it's why Brian truly says, don't be a sheep, watch Ring of Honor, watch New Japan, because you get tired of seeing them over-dramatize a wrestling match.
But it's also the issue the older fans have, because we lived in an era, we grew up in an era of kayfabe.
Right, very true.
We grew up in an era where the bad guys were the bad guys, and the wrestlers were wrestlers, and that's who they were.
Yeah.
But now with social media and the internet and everything the way it is, it's there looks the bad guy, there's the heel, but oh look, there he is doing a Make-A-Wish. There's the bad guys, but it's like this whole Nia Jackson, Alexa Bliss angle, is killing them because they're best friends.
Well, and that angle itself is that, but at the same time, it's now a reverse bad situation, because now you've got a character who's supposed to be the bad guy who is, she's not fat shaming Nia Jax anymore. She's calling her a bully. So you're doing your anti-bullying campaign in reverse, where it's just
now the bully is the victim.
Right, and it's like, this is nuts. And I think that's why a lot of, maybe you're right, man, a lot of fans our age get tired of it because they just want to see wrestling. Like, when we go to a good indie show, we just want to see good wrestling.
How many times when you go to a show, big company or small company, when you have a good wrestling match, everybody in the place stands up and cheers?
Yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean? And I think that is why when in our lives, to a certain degree, when the likes of AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura and Kevin Owens and The Club and Finn Balor and, those Ricochet, those guys coming to the main roster, you're like, hell yeah. Finally, WWE's going to leave this soap opera storylines.
Yeah.
And they're going to have their storylines, but they're going to have a awesome in-ring product. And I'm not slighting anybody.
Right.
But, those are the ones you watch on the indies and you're like, AJ Styles. Because I remember us having that conversation.
Yeah.
AJ Styles will never go to main rock. AJ Styles will never go to WWE.
Right.
Oh, he'll never do it. And then what happened?
He went.
Hi, I'm AJ Styles, WWE.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's now like one of the faces of their company.
Bam!
Right. Which speaks, it's a testament to how much change has happened with the machine, really. I mean, the amount of changes we've seen in that company from our childhood to today is almost unheard of. But there's still that feeling of they still hold on to that, I don't know, the glimmer of yesteryear, where the drama of Hulkamania, the drama of can anyone stop Andre the Giant, the Ultimate Warrior's rampage to the ring instead of the Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage, is in what we want to see. It's the Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman, which for a bulk of the time that feud went on, while it was entertaining, none of us remarked that match was a great wrestling match.
Right.
It was a great fight. And both of us, when we would watch, would say, man, they're beating the hell out of each other, but it was never it was never like AJ Styles and Kevin Owens. You know what I mean? And I think as we've gotten older, I think what we're seeing is just the lack of desire to see that kind of drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, again, it's not everything. Every wrestling promotion is going to be different.
Right.
Like, you could take the same match, and they've done it. Ricochet Ospreay. AJ Styles Nakamura. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn.
Yep.
You could take the same match and put it anywhere, and it's going to be different no matter what. It's going to be the same people. You could take look how many times Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn have fought in their career.
Mm-hmm.
If they bona fide grew up near each other, and I think that's bona fide that they grew up as friends.
Yeah.
That they were friends. So they've wrestled before, but every time they wrestle, it's different. Everywhere they wrestle, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
You could put two people on the grandest stage of them all, and it's not going to be the same that it was in, the Patriot Center or wherever, because one, the stage has changed,
mm-hmm.
and it's just going to be different. Because I made the comment. We got AJ Styles Nakamura. We talked about it last week on the show. It wasn't the same AJ Nakamura that we thought we were going to get.
Right. We got WWE's AJ versus Shinsuke, not New Japan. Yeah.
And it's not slighting them. It's just different.
So we go from, and this, of course, another stellar debate, I think. Give ourselves a nice Barry Horowitz pat on the back. We got Backlash coming up this Sunday. Fresh out of the Greatest Royal Rumble. Traveling from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, back home to the States at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. May 6th, we got Roman Reigns against Samoa Joe. We've got AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE title. We got Seth Rollins defending the Intercontinental title against The Miz. Nia Jax defending against Alexa Bliss. Carmella defending against Charlotte Flair. And Daniel Bryan taking on Big Cass. So let's go ahead and do some predictions here. Let's run through the card. We'll start with Daniel Bryan and Big Cass. Does it end before it gets started? Does Daniel Bryan beat him and that's it?
No. Big Cass gets this win.
Are you okay with that as a fan?
As a fan of Daniel Bryan, no.
Right.
But as a fan of the business, you realize that there's going to be a payoff.
Right.
So, either person wins, it's not going to be the end.
True.
We'll see it continue being whoever.
And I think that Daniel Bryan's in the position now in his career where he's done. I mean, you don't get a bigger WrestleMania moment than what he had at WrestleMania 30. I think what he wants to do now is help everyone else, which really speaks to the character of the man, not the wrestler. So, yeah, I have to agree. I think Big Cass comes away the victor here. But I think sooner or later we see Daniel Bryan coming out of this feud on top, winning the feud.
Mm-hmm. Daniel Bryan's going to get the payoff.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan's going to get the payoff because what's going to happen is when he beats Big Cass will then be cemented or will be inserted into that heel role.
Right.
And Daniel Bryan will then be like, look, I've been gone. I lasted this long in the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
I took on Big Cass and I took him out 7 foot tall. And now I want you.
Hey, speaking of that, with Big Cass on SmackDown, did you notice when he was the guest on Miz TV and he's doing his conversation about being 7 feet tall, the crowd still said, and you can't teach that.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta tell you, if Cass ever goes back to being a good guy, which I think he might, at some point anyway, if he does, I still think that's got to be one of the hottest bits in WWE. So yeah, I have to agree with you. I think Big Cass gets the win, probably by dubious fashion. A low blow that the ref doesn't see, followed by a big boot to the head, something like that. How about Carmella defending against Charlotte Flair? SmackDown Women's title. The cash-in was actually pretty good. The momentum hasn't carried as much as we would have hoped, though.
If you're looking at it as a business standpoint, you take the title off of her and you put it back on Charlotte. So then you could do build-up with Asuka or
any of the
somebody
there. Yeah.
Creatively, in my opinion, if you take it off of Carmella, if Carmella loses to Charlotte in her first defense of the belt, Carmella will not recover.
Yeah.
Creatively, I think Carmella is a lot better wrestler than she's being allowed to be on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like seeing things from house shows and things like that, she's one of those that suffers from the WWE has a pigeonhole of what they want her to do.
Right.
And yeah, she did her gimmick. She does this. She's got the belt. I do not think her gimmick can sustain her losing to Charlotte the first time out. Now, granted, she could just take the belt and take a count out.
Right.
Like, if she just takes the belt and be like, you know what, I'm losing, and pull the whole Randy Savage and like, I'm out of here, takes the count out, bam. You know what?
And everybody's better for it, yeah.
You beat Charlotte at her own game.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. I mean, I think with Charlotte, she can honestly become champion whenever they want her to. And it's not going to hurt her to have to fight her way back up. It's not going to hurt her for her to, play a backseat, kind of like Becky Lynch did for this past year. And I think you're right. I think Carmella, in this iteration of her character, I think if she were to lose it first time out, it would be kind of a bad deal. I think from a creative standpoint, I would not want to see her come out decisively over Charlotte, but some kind of maybe the count out, something where she beats Flair at her own game. And I also think that what she's done, like this past week, where she's doing the Money Mella and all of that, that's a slow transition into a better thing. And fans are booing her now because of the character, not because of the person. So yeah, I agree. I think her wrestling is getting better, but there is a part of me that still wonders, why would you go through what you did to have Charlotte beat Asuka, only to have Carmella beat Charlotte, and then Asuka debut like somewhere in the background?
I think the problem is WWE was thinking about, like they had the world title thing figured out down the road.
Right.
And we know WWE they probably have whole years worth of storylines ready to go.
Yeah.
They probably got WrestleMania 50 already starting to figure out. Or 40, I would say 40. WrestleMania 40 is going to be a huge deal in just a few years. And,
you think we'll still be watching at WrestleMania 40?
I will be.
Think so?
I will be.
I mean, we've made it. We made it this far. Might as well
I hope
stick
to
with
have been to a WrestleMania by WrestleMania 40.
I hope to as
If
well.
not at WrestleMania 40. But I'm not as optimistic for this year in New Jersey as you and Brian are, just for me personally.
Yeah.
But because other things going on.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to that. I think what happened was you had Asuka. Asuka got hurt. They used that as, all right, we're moving her up.
Yep.
We're moving Asuka up. You had Charlotte. You had Alexa Bliss. You had all your storylines already going. Because if you think about it, your storylines for the females have been Charlotte and Becky. It was Charlotte and Alexa themselves for a while. Then it was Alexa and somebody. Becky hasn't had a storyline.
Right.
Or with Sasha. Becky hasn't had a storyline in a year.
Yeah, it's
you
true.
know?
She's been in the background. I mean, she was with Alexa Bliss. She had that feud, and then once that ended, she was in the background. It was Charlotte's game.
I mean, Naomi, once they took the belt off of her,
yeah,
she hasn't had anything. They've been that singular focus of their women's division.
Yeah.
But, long story even longer, I apologize. I think they did the women's ladder match, the Money in the Bank, as hey, we're doing the first ever women's Money in the Bank without the thought of where is she going to cash it in.
Right.
Because then they're like, I think it became a backstory to other storylines. And then it was one of those that they realized, oh shit, she's got to cash it in at some point.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look good for somebody to cash it in and lose it because of the backlash from Baron Corbin. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
but I think that...
So you couldn't... Realistically, she couldn't cash it in against Alexa Bliss because they're both heels.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And you had her going... You had that whole story of her and Nia Jax building up. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't do the triumph of Nia Jax finally beat the bully just to lose to Carmella,
Well, and that's the thing, and people were, because you remember, if you remember in the Corner to Corner chat, I had suggested it too, and we had talked about it, you and me and Brian had talked about it. To me, it made better sense only because of it would have made Carmella that much more over the top as the bad guy. You just defeated one mean girl, kind of character, and now here comes another that you've...
And they could have spun it with the, haha, I told you weren't going to do it.
Right, right. And, I mean, I think they probably got so much flack from how Alexa finally turned on Nia. They probably got so much flack from it, they figured, no, we'll keep that clean. Let's go.
Especially when your company has a huge anti-bullying standpoint.
Yeah, yeah.
And your biggest storyline right now in your female division is a bullying thing.
Bullying and fat shaming.
Yeah. Not cool.
I mean, and I get it. You want to try to make something out of what you have. Do you think that Alexa gets the belt back at Backlash?
Yes.
You do?
I do.
So, Nia Jax from that point...
I think you're going to see Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss they're going to have a series like Sasha and Charlotte did.
Ah, okay.
Where
I could kind of
one
see
wins,
that.
then boom, then bam, then boom, then bam. Because, I mean, I just see it that way. And...
it's funny because when Sasha and Charlotte had their feud, we made fun of it at the time, but now we look at it and it's kind of a measuring point for the women's division as far as how good a feud can be.
Now, you'll have to be careful. They'll have to be careful because Alexa's already at 4.
Yeah.
Alexa's already a 4-time women's champion.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they do it a couple times, then poop, she's tied with Mickie James.
Man, I wonder if they would... Because, personally, I think Alexa Bliss is great. I think her character, her in-ring ability is solid. Do I think she's better than, Ronda Rousey or any of that? No, of course not. But I think that...
She's a different wrestler.
Yes. And I think it sells for everyone. Mm-hmm. It's not just a wrestling hardcore fan or a WWE fan. It's overall. I think with what we're seeing on Raw right now, the challenge they have is you've got the slow build of Ronda Rousey. You know that she is at some point going to most likely tag with Natalya and then face Natalya. So
because it's only a matter of time Natalya's going to turn on her.
Right.
Because there's the hole in the Riot Squad that needs to be filled.
Right.
Not Riot Squad, but there's a hole in Absolution that needs to be filled.
So you've got that part, and then you've also got all these different things going on in the background with Sasha and Bayley. So realistically speaking, your top contender there is Alexa Bliss or Nia Jax. Those are your top 2. So there's no reason to do anything else with that except for them maybe to trade it off.
Because you've totally neutralized Mickie James.
Yeah, because now Mickie James is going to be embroiled in this thing with Ronda Rousey. That's going to be her first real test, which, hey, it doesn't get much more of a huge test than to face Mickey James.
But, and so that's why I believe they did not have Asuka beat Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think about it, it would have been like, Asuka beats Charlotte, takes the belt, keeps the streak, and then Carmella ends the streak.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm not talking about Carmella as a character. I'm saying in storybook land, in storybook land and storyline land, it's believable that Charlotte ended the streak. Charlotte has the pedigree.
Yeah,
to end the streak.
That's true, and it just
Carmella doesn't have the pedigree to end the streak.
True.
True. So then you were running that terror that you're running that double-edged sword of she's got the briefcase. At some point she has to cash it in. Mm-hmm. Do we commit career suicide and have her cash in and lose and become a laughingstock?
Right. Or
do we swerve it? I mean, and I'm not saying they did the whole Asuka Charlotte storyline for Carmella.
Right.
I'm just saying I think what they did was they ended the streak because they realized it's just like Goldberg.
You think it just got too big?
I think it got too big, and at some point it had to end.
Yeah, and then you've got the toughest choice in the world of who ends it.
Right.
Well, just like The Undertaker. I mean, he gets to 20-0, and we're like, oh, well, geez, no one is ending this streak. And along comes Brock.
Right, and then, I mean, what if they would have said, all right, well, no one's going to end Asuka's streak. Mm-hmm. She's going to get the Rumble. She's going to get the belt at Mania. No one's going to end her streak. Ronda's going to premiere, and then Ronda can't deliver.
Now you've got an even bigger problem.
Now you have this unbeatable person that you said, all right, Ronda Rousey's going to beat and end the streak because Ronda Rousey is a badass. Right? And then, oh, wait a minute, Ronda doesn't transition to WWE well. Because sometimes it happens.
Yeah, very true.
So then, what now? The streak's even longer. Mm-hmm. Asuka's even more unbeatable.
And now you've got the toughest task in the world of finding who is better than Ronda Rousey.
Right.
To beat
and then
Asuka.
If she can't do it,
now you're screwed. Yeah.
So now you've made Asuka realistic.
Yep.
And so that's why, in my mind,
I think in this case also it makes Asuka a stronger good guy because the further and further she got down the line with her streak, you could tell that because when she was in NXT and had the streak, she was slowly turning bad. She was using, heel tactics and all that, and it was like they're going to get to that point, but they're trying to capitalize on her popularity. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, they need the babyface sympathy. They need her to lose.
And the fact is, you put the belt on her. You're keeping her out of the spotlight. Mm-hmm. You're bringing her in to help Charlotte.
Yeah.
Against the Iconics, and you're doing this, so it's like, all right. Well, eventually, there's two face top women can turn heel like that.
Right.
They both could. Either one of them.
Yeah.
Could spin. All I would hate to be is a 6-woman tag match with them two and Becky because Becky's getting a beat down from one of them.
Becky is the Sting of the WWE.
She's gonna get the beat down. She is Charlotte Sting. She is Sting.
She is the Sting to Charlotte. Yeah, that's a good point. With what we see with today's women's division, I mean, Alexa Bliss winning the title from Nia, I think, is not a bad thing. I think that probably goes forward, just like you said, furthering that feud along. I think if Charlotte beats Carmella now, it's just too soon. Mm-hmm. But now we go from the women to the men. Intercontinental title on the line. Seth Rollins versus The Miz. Here's the part of this that confuses me. Jeff Hardy's U.S. champ right now, in sort of a mini feud with Shelton Benjamin and Randy Orton. that title, as of now, is not being defended at Backlash. But the Intercontinental title is being defended and is an interpromotional battle. Seth is on Raw, Miz is on SmackDown. So you kind of already know that Seth is winning this match.
Mm-hmm.
Unless for some reason they decide they're going to bring the title to SmackDown. Which I don't understand why they would do that. But if they do, we've got more questions than answers, because that means you've got 2 singles titles, 3 singles titles on SmackDown and only 1 on Raw. Because the Battle Royal winner, Braun Strowman, that's a belt just for the event. That's not a actual title to be defended. Is it?
I don't know. I mean, it's pretty cool. But it's probably like the King of the Ring, I imagine.
Yeah.
He can carry it around. He'll carry it around until next year's Greatest Royal Rumble.
Right, and then defend his crown or something.
And less cumbersome in the truck. The production guys are like, when they made that big old trophy, the production guys are like, we'd have no more room in a truck for a damn trophy, Vince. Like, unless you're going to drive it, there is no more. We already got the Andre one. We already got the women's one. Like, we got to carry all the stuff for everybody else.
Hey, speaking of Vince, how weird was it seeing him in the middle of the ring, awarding the stuff to Braun? It was like, this is just weird. Like,
I don't think it went as they thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to make it a big formal thing, and then it was like, here you go.
Yeah, and then you've got the royal family in there, and you're like, man, this is just, as I stated when they first booked the event, I'm like, this is just weird and uncomfortable.
Well, and
you're waiting for I don't want to be culturally insensitive, but you're waiting for like a terrorist act.
Well, I'm not gonna go that far, but it's just
it just seemed weird.
It had a once I knew it was a bought show, it had a different allure. Like,
yeah.
I loved the set. I loved
the set was cool.
The arena.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole setup was awesome. Like, the lighting. I mean, the production was awesome.
You think we get that arena like for 2K19?
I don't know. That'd be neat.
Yeah. We're easily amused here at Corner to Corner.
But going back, to me, your Intercontinental title, it should be Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor with what happened at the Greatest Royal Rumble, where Balor was up there, had his hand getting ready to reach up, and Seth did his whole jump and grabbed the belt.
Yeah.
To me, that is a better payoff of, all right, now we can figure this out, because, because then that would have set up Seth. If Seth lost the IC title, that would have set Seth up to go for Roman, or Joe, whoever was done. Because has Seth ever got the payback from Joe tearing his ACL?
Not really. I mean, he had the feud, but it kind of dissipated into nothing. And then when he and Dean Ambrose started tagging, they just shifted gears and took Seth out of that role. And then, of course, Joe hurts his foot, and Joe gets shifted to the sidelines too.
So to me, that would be. I love the Miz, but I think the Miz needs to focus on, unless they're going to move the titles.
Yeah. But here's the thing, so Jeff Hardy successfully defends against Jinder. Thank God. Although, a little weird. Your one title change you kind of figured was an obvious one. And again, maybe it's just me being culturally insensitive, and if that's the case, I apologize. It's not really meant that way. But I just kind of figured that you've got the character, you've got the method and the reason, you figured it was going to happen. But since it didn't, you're kind of guaranteed that Miz isn't winning the belt.
Right.
So why? Why do this? Why not interject Finn Balor or someone else into the mix and start paying attention to them? Why are we having Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe when we could have Samoa Joe versus Seth Rollins for the Intercontinental title, and Roman Reigns could take a back seat for a week and let someone else perform? Because I don't think people are paying, and we all know I'm a Roman Reigns fan, But I don't think people are going into this pay-per-view specifically to see Reigns versus Samoa Joe. I think they're going for Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles. And I also think they're going to see Daniel Bryan. Mm-hmm. That's what I think the selling point of this pay-per-view is. Do I think Roman and Samoa Joe will be a good match? Yeah, I kind of do. I kind of think they're going to beat the hell out of each other, and I think Samoa Joe's ability in the ring is going to be what sells this matchup. Mm-hmm. Roman can wrestle. He's had great matches with guys like John Cena, with guys like AJ Styles, with Kevin Owens. I mean, we've seen him have great fights, but Samoa Joe's a little bit different kind of a guy, and I just see it going differently.
I mean, what's the payoff?
Well, so if Joe wins, great.
Now, granted, I understand the people out there in the world, there doesn't always have to be a payoff.
Right. But if Joe wins, he gets bragging rights and says that he conquered Roman Reigns, or however he words it. But Roman Reigns, is this the straw that breaks the camel's back for him? Does he finally lose it on Raw? Or is this one of those moments where, yet again, against all odds, quote unquote, Roman Reigns beats Samoa Joe, but still can't beat Brock Lesnar?
Right.
So, what, does Joe go back to Raw and taunt him again if he loses? Or who is the guy that goes against Roman Reigns from here? Braun? Why? They're both good guys right now, so it doesn't make any sense. That's the problem with it. I mean, you've now got SmackDown now is your A show. Your brand is correct as far as roster. You go to Raw, and it is so top-heavy that no one else is getting their time because you've got to give 15, 20 minutes to Braun, regardless of what he does. You've got to give Roman Reigns your 10 minutes, regardless of what he does. You give Seth Rollins his 5 to 8 minutes, maybe, because you've given so much already to these other top guys. You have so many top guys on this card, it's hard to imagine.
Well, I mean, right now, like, I would totally agree with you. You know, your, like, the issue that they're having is, it's like those weird moments when, you know, years ago when one of your main eventers had one of the mid-card titles. You know, like when Ric Flair was the U.S. champ towards the end. You know, it's like, he's not supposed to have that belt.
right.
You know, like, he's supposed to up there.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, you got Seth Rollins, who you've already cemented as your main event, one of your main event guys. Mm-hmm. Now you have him fighting in a mid-card status, and it's like, it's throwing off the kilter of, you know...
Or maybe is it our view of how a card is structured now that is different? Because our view of how a card is structured is just what you said. Seth Rollins is already a proven main event guy. He's at the top of the card, end of the show. He's the guy. Roman Reigns, Braun Strowman. I mean, that's their guys that they've selected.
It's like, it kind of brings up, like we talked about when the Superstar Shakeup came.
Yeah.
And how SmackDown has the working agreement with NXT.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when either you or Brian brought up the thing of, is it reciprocal? You know, like, can Daniel Bryan go become an NXT World Champion?
God, that'd be cool.
And I'm like,
God, Aleister Black and Daniel Bryan. I think I said it last week too. Damn, that would be a great match.
But Daniel Bryan doesn't need it.
No, he doesn't have to win it. That's the thing. That matchup alone would sell tickets.
Right. But, you know, it's like, you know, once you've gotten up here, you know, all right, you're here. And now you're here because we can't put you here because we put our belts on a part-timer who's not around and we can't build a storyline up there.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing we can throw up there at him is, let's throw Roman Reigns up there. Because everybody loves to see Roman Reigns getting thrown around the ring. You know, like...
Yeah.
Let's get that. And eventually, all right, now we're thinking about doing something here, and so let's throw Joe up there.
Yeah.
But now Joe's up there with what? You know, like...
Yeah, like what... Now that you've got the roster set up the way you do, and we're going into overtime here, but we'll go ahead and finish up with this and then our predictions. But now that you've got Joe where you have him, okay, so you come out of Backlash, regardless of who your WWE champion is. If he beats Roman, great. If he doesn't, fine. You still have to find something to do with Samoa Joe after this matchup. It's like they're booking a week at a time, not a month at a time. And they get this hot idea, and they jump in, not realizing that they have so many other gaps to fill. Like the Superstar Shakeup, that's what it was. The Monday night, it was, oh my God, they just raped and pillaged and plundered SmackDown, and SmackDown is left wanting for the rest of the week. And then you get to Tuesday night, and you're like, wow, Raw is way top heavy, and SmackDown is now your best wrestling show almost ever.
I mean, because we didn't even mention that they now have Bobby Roode.
Yeah, yeah.
Who you vaulted up into,
And Bobby Lashley.
Right. And it's like... But
and how about the reaction for Bobby Lashley? When he left, they could have cared less about him. I guess finally, Impact has helped the Superstar.
Well, I mean...
Between him and EC3, I guess. My stomach's making all sorts of crazy
EC3, NXT, like... TNA Impact made WWE notice, and yes, EC3. We'll see what happens now that he's in the WWE machine.
Yeah.
EC3's issue, I think, is going to be the fact that on NXT with him right now is Ricochet.
Well, yeah.
And Adam Cole. And,
Yeah, you got a lot
the Undisputed Era. And Aleister Black. And
Roderick Strong.
So.
Well, yeah, Undisputed Era. So let's go ahead and close out with our predictions for the last two. So I think we agreed that Seth Rollins comes away as Intercontinental Champ. WWE title, AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. I gotta say again, I like Shinsuke's heel turn. I think maybe this is where he gets the belt.
Well, I think you've had him fight twice.
Yep.
And Shinsuke, I think.
Yeah. I think, like, the first time it was a clean finish at Mania.
The rubber match.
It was, now it's time to really decide where you're going. And
let's win with a low blow, since he's loved that damn thing for the last 6 weeks.
I mean, the way he hits it, it's like he's just grinding the dude's sack all the way up into his throat.
I mean, every time he hits it, I feel like I want to send a sorry card to AJ Styles' wife.
I mean, and he just hangs that arm. It's like a Ric Flair low blow. It's just bam, and he just hangs it there. It's like,
Yeah, it's like you knew it was Ric Flair. You knew it was coming. You knew at some point he was going to run into the ropes, flip over, come back around, and you knew at some point he was going to be like, no.
Yeah. Right.
Bam, right in the nuts. You knew it was coming. Just like you knew Hogan was going to be like...
Yeah. What you just missed was Rob hulking up.
Sorry, I didn't realize. I forgot this wasn't radio. This wasn't TV for a second.
So, and then Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe. The main event currently at the top of the card. We don't really know.
Joe.
I'm inclined to agree with you. Only because I'm getting the feeling that what they're doing with Roman is, again, had a plan, thought this was supposed to be what's happening, and suddenly it didn't. I don't know what to tell you, and then he's just getting more frustrated and more frustrated.
Well, I see it as...
I think he's turning.
I see it as he's going to beat him, and then Joe's going to say, "I've beat you, and I'm going to beat Brock."
Yeah, maybe he uses that as a lead into.
So then at SummerSlam, it'll be Brock versus Samoa Joe.
If Joe is the guy that beats Brock Lesnar, that's huge, and that should put Samoa Joe in almost legend status. I mean, the guy's tremendous as it is.
I would say Samoa Joe is the teetotal badass right now that you have in with the build that could take Brock.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And the toughness and the attitude.
Right.
Yeah.
His character could take Brock.
Yeah.
And Brock wouldn't lose anything with it. And if it doesn't happen that way, the only thing else I see is Brock come out on Monday night being like, you know what, I've had fun playing with y'all, I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that...
It's not fun anymore, it's starting to be work, and I'm bored.
I think that that's probably what we may see, because we know Brock's on a $600,000 per appearance deal, which is a big amount of money per appearance. So, yeah, Vince is probably like, sure, let's do the botched show in Saudi Arabia. There's Brock's contract. Now we can focus on everyday business. Which, fine. Makes sense.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, exactly.
Did Brock give them all like little goodie bags that they left?
The Brock Lesnar swag bag. I
You
gotta
know,
see
like-
what that is. Do you get like Jimmy John's free sandwiches and beef jerky? But I think that makes sense. I would really like to see that. Plus, we know that Brock's going back to UFC. We know he's going to have a fight, most likely after SummerSlam, maybe even just before. Makes good sense. Let's say he wins at UFC. Makes great sense for Brock to come into SummerSlam being none the wiser, not able to compete because he wasn't prepared. Or Joe just catches him slipping. And that's how we get the new champ, which is fine. I'm okay with that because once Joe gets the belt, or anyone really, whoever they choose as their heir apparent to be Brock Lesnar, I think that's just smart money. I think you tease it, you let Brock do the UFC fight again, but this time when he comes back, it's a different result. It's not elbows to the head, it's you lose.
Well, and I think when you get the belt off Brock, Brock then becomes like the Undertaker type. He shows up when you need him for a match with whoever. You know, Joe beats him. Mm-hmm. Bam. All right. Look on Monday night now. Yeah. Now you've opened up your world title picture. You've helped that top-heavy roster.
And maybe it filters down for your mid-card.
You know, because now you have somewhere for your top guys to go and your mid-card and, you know, therefore. So, I mean, I truly believe that there should be a network title. I've always said, and Brian's always said the television title. Yeah. I've always said you call it the network title or something that goes from show to show. That's defended on all the shows. There
is a rumor currently going on that very soon we may be seeing the introduction of another title on WWE, not on NXT, but on WWE. And if that's the case, I think that's probably the smartest direction you can go because you need to give the lower tier guys something to shoot for. You know, we all know it's a work. We all know what it is, but you have to create a division of some type that gets interest from fans. Mm-hmm. That makes a fan tune in for 3 hours on a Monday. Or makes a fan stick around for the dark match from SmackDown's taping. Or, you know, defends it on a 205 Live that just happens to have this title defense where maybe Kalisto gets a shot or maybe Cedric gets a shot. These are guys that are very talented and could move up given the right opportunity, and I think that's a great idea.
But it's a way to get your guys involved.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I mean, just think about when they did and I'll shut up, but like the whole hardcore title, 24 hours anywhere.
Yeah,
you know, how many lower tier guys now have WWE champion?
Yeah, in their resume. Yeah,
on their resume because they got to be part of.
Hey,
you know,
Pete Gas is a former WWE hardcore champion.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, you may have held it for 30 seconds, but dang it, you held it.
Yep, that's true. That's true.
Know?
So, I mean, as we get ready to go ahead and close out for the evening, again, Rob, myself, Brian, who is convalescing, and I can't say I blame him. We probably could have chose that discretion as better part of valor tonight.
I wish I was rolling over.
Right now. Man, me too. Busy weekend. Great night of UCW action. Go to UCWforever.com. Make sure you pay attention to our Twitch feed as well, because I promise you, in the coming weeks, you're going to see some awesome entertainment and some awesome action. You can follow UCW Forever on Twitter and Ultimate Championship Wrestling LLC on Facebook. And I just gave you the Twitch feed and the website. So, Brian can be caught at STRCP21 on the Twitter bot, and he's on Facebook at Brian Taylor. Rob?
At Rob Hefner C2C on Twitter, Rob Hefner on Facebook, and RDHUWP on the Instagram. And I will say that it has been a great weekend of busy weekend. Wrestling is fun. Sorry, it's fun to be in the business. And pay attention, guys. Pay attention to your national products, your international products, but definitely pay attention to your local product. If there is a product near you that a quality product near you, you should go see it.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes down to it, you don't get a Stone Cold, Roman Reigns, John Cena, any of them if there's no independent wrestling that ever gives that person their start. So you're looking for your top tier talents. You're looking for the next big thing. Check out a company like UCW because that's definitely where you're going to find some of the best. I can be found on Twitter at I almost gave Brian's again. At Stan from Krypton. Facebook, of course, is Stan Grubb. I am also on Instagram myself. It's Stan Grubb there. Corner to Corner for the show on Instagram. At C2C Radio Show on Twitter. And Corner to Corner Show on Facebook. Hey, keep in mind for all of our fans on the Facebook group that coming soon we'll have a discussion as to who was the best manager ever. And soon after that we'll be discussing, that's right, the return of the Corner to Corner draft. Which, as long as we're not the ones organizing it, we're happy
I don't
to
have
have
to
it.
facilitate that.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. So shout out to Sonny and to Shane for giving ideas on that. By the way,
Yeah.
And
I
then,
would say limit the amount of
the roster sizes we have to
the roster sizes and the amount of people.
got to have some tweaks there.
But otherwise, it was awesome. It was fun.
And before I forget, UCW is on Instagram as well. UCW Forever on Instagram. So, with that being said, for Brian, who's not here, for Rob,
I am done.
I'm Stan Grubb saying I'm about to go take a long winter's nap. See you guys next time as we talk about Backlash and everything.
Just not
out there.
at my house.
No, I got a long drive to go. Well, not really that long. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
That's the problem. One topic, and I get talking, and I take